In this episode of Warning to Love PlayStation, we look at Insomniac Games' last entry in their Spyro the Dragon trilogy, Spyro, Year of the Dragon. Once again, it came out a year after the last Spyro game, in the year 2000, which was literally the Year of the Dragon. And once again, we'll start with the plot. Meet the Sorceress, a bad dinosaur bitch who wants immortality. She sends her lackey, Bianca, to infiltrate the dragon worlds and steal all 150 of their dragon eggs in the search for immortality. Bianca is a rabbit who has magic powers. I get it. She nearly gets away with the thievery until she trips on a certain someone's tail, which causes him to wake up. That certain someone trips over a rock and Bianca gets away. Good to see you again, Hunter. Strangely, Elora from the last game is practically nowhere to be seen in this game. We don't see her until after the final boss. So, Spyro and Hunter are tasked with getting back all of the dragon eggs. As the collectible for this game, I like these a lot more than the orbs and talismans from the last game. There's much more personal incentive to rescue a bunch of cute baby dragons to ensure the future of Spyro's kind. A few times throughout the game, Bianca will pop into the hub worlds to warn you not to mess with her. Then she rainbows away. Some romantic tension begins to grow between Hunter and Bianca, and eventually Bianca takes a liking to him in Spyro. Mostly Hunter. The Sorceress forces Bianca to try and trap Spyro, but Hunter lands in a cage instead. And upon finding out that the Sorceress wants the dragon eggs solely for pure greed...
Yes, yes! It will smash them and crush them and grind them and tear them! Oh, yes! Smear them and smoosh them and crack them and crease them!
But, won't that kill them?
Bianca defects from the Sorceress by freeing Hunter, and once Spyro has enough magical dragon eggs to break the magical seal on the Sorceress's door in the final world, you go and beat her up. Hunter and Bianca share a kiss, Elora pops in to suggest her and Spyro have a romantic night watching fireworks, and the game ends there. Pretty simple and generic this time around, but I'm fond of it, as silly as it is. So, gameplay! You can tell that these year-long development cycles were kind of getting to Insomniac. After Year of the Dragon, it was stated that they had issues finding ways to keep Spyro's gameplay fresh, as he couldn't really pick up anything with his hands like, say, a gun. So, introduce a slew of playable characters. Sheila the Kangaroo, Sergeant Bird the Penguin, Bentley the Yeti, Agent on the Space Monkey, Sparks the Dragonfly, and even Hunter the Cheetah. Holy crap, that's a lot of new gameplay styles. All of these characters who aren't Sparks or Hunter have found themselves trapped by the Sorceress. Our favorite gem-grubbing bear, Moneybags, has returned and works for the evil queen. By paying him off, he'll free the animals, they'll each kick his ass, and you get to play as them in a few stages. Let's go one by one. Sheila is a stereotypical, kind-hearted Aussie, and you can jump and double jump. If you jump and hit the jump button as soon as you land on the ground, she'll rebound very high into the air, which gets you to some hidden areas. She can also kick and ground pound. Her levels are generally pretty fun and a great change of pace from Spyro's, if not very basic. Sergeant Bird is basically James Bond in penguin form, who can fly. Yeah, just yeah. He can also shoot missiles from his shoulder armaments. He can also pick things up and drop them. Bird is kind of a tedious character to play, and while it's fun to blow shit up, his air control leaves a lot to be desired. It's so hard to explain how it feels, but once you play it, you'll know exactly what I mean. Bentley is an antithesis to the big, dumb character trope with a very advanced vocabulary. Sadly, his gameplay is ridiculously basic. Walk around, reflect projectiles only at certain points, and bash things with a big ice hammer. You also get to push some boxes, and you get to jump on them, sometimes. Oh, and you also get to go boxing. We'll get back to that. Agent 9 is basically the prototype for Ratchet and Clank, the next game Insomniac we go to work on. Agent 9 is super hyperactive, trigger-happy, and possibly insane. He started out as a lab monkey for the Professor, returning from Spyro 2, but he was taught how to fight by the Professor. Agent 9's gameplay style is that of an awkward third-person shooter, with one first-person shooter segment later on that's even more awkward. I wouldn't call his gameplay bad, just definitely a product of its time and the limitations of the controller. For a fun fact, he was set to get his own game around 2004 called Agent 9, where he would have been styled like James Bond. Even though there's already a James Bond styled character in this game, whatever. Later on, the game was retooled into a game called Prime 8, which would have been more like an actual Ratchet and Clank game, and it was cancelled. Rest in peace, Agent 9. Sparks gets 4 simple top-down shooter levels, which are pretty entertaining, complete with a boss fight for each stage. As far as Hunter goes, me saying he's playable is a bit of a misnomer. You're technically playing as Hunter, but usually in some kind of vehicle. 4 different styles in each of the 4 speedway stages, those of which are still fantastic just by the way. But that's not all the gameplay variety, oh no. There's boxing, racing, destruction derby, submarine battles, auto-progress, diving, full-fledged skateboarding, it just goes on and on. The amount of gameplay styles Insomniac incorporated in a year is staggering and impressive. Unfortunately, some styles fall flat. Skateboarding works great, for example, but boxing just feels completely unfair. Just no matter what you do against this guy, he just seems to always have the upper hand. I mean, you can cheese it by circling around him, but yeah, have fun with that skill point, kids. And for another point in the game that was just maddening, the Destruction Derby and Haunted Tomb, I was almost ripping my hair out. I'm not ashamed to say I used a cheat code at this point to give myself 99 lives. Ridiculous, just does not control well. But let's not forget the core Spyro gameplay. This time, all the extra moves you had to unlock from Spyro 2 are unlocked from the start, so you can already head bash and climb up ladders. Upgrades to Spyro actually come from doing Sparks' levels. You can get the ability to have Sparks point in the direction of gems you missed in the level, which was a feature from the start in Spyro 2. You can also get an additional health point, and the ability for Sparks to break treasure chests for you, and a level select. Just small things. Spyro's gameplay was pretty much untouched, and it shines as bright as ever. The levels are more fun than Spyro 2's, and are probably the strongest part of Year of the Dragon. Bosses are pretty sweet too, except for the Sorceress. Maybe it's different when you 100% the game, but initially at least it's just a one-phase fight where you dodge your magic blasts and use turrets and missiles to defeat her. You don't even actually use your natural abilities at all, really. I'll give the point to Ripto's Rage for the better final boss fight. So with Spyro's gameplay at its brightest, it's just a shame that Spyro experience is actually only about 50 or 60% of the total game. It almost feels like Insomniac was overly worried about it becoming stale and made this game a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none situation. I agree that this game pretty much pushed the gameplay concept to its peaks and that it would be difficult to improve on, but it just feels like too much. I didn't 100% Year of the Dragon. There was a tough racing minigame in the final world that just made me say, enough is enough. There comes a point where you have to recognize you're not having fun, and being made to play something other than what I came for that doesn't really work overly well just made me think 99% is enough. I mean, don't get me crossed. Year of the Dragon on the whole was a very well made experience and a fitting send-off for Insomniac's time with Spyro. When the game shines, it shines, but I think Ripto's Rage held the balance perfectly for core Spyro versus alternate gameplay styles. I strongly feel that if Year of the Dragon had just dropped Bentley and Hunter, and focused more time into refining some of the clunkier minigames and Sergeant Bird's gameplay, Spyro 3 would be a much more focused, cohesive experience. Unfortunately, the game has some bloat that you'll definitely notice, but don't let that turn you off. Please play this game. It is still incredibly charming and well constructed, it's just that not everything is perfect. And just because I didn't want to leave the presentation out, graphics are still great and consistent with Spyro 2. Musically, Copeland stepped up his game, and another composer was even brought on, Ryan Beveridge. I think it's the only game Beveridge has ever actually composed for, but he balances very well against Copeland's tracks. He has a very different style that actually still fits in very well with the game, making this the best of the 3 Spyro scores in my opinion. To answer the question I left off with at the end of the Spyro 2 video, I feel that Ripto's Rage is the best of the original Spyro trilogy. That'll probably get me some hate, but that's just the way I feel. So, that's Spyro 3 done and dusted. The Spyro gameplay peaked, the character stories are all done, Spyro and Elora get together, yes! Everything was pushed to its limits for the PlayStation. So, it's about time we looked at PlayStation's other lovable, cute and cuddly mascot with attitude, right? Well, there's one more game I want to look at before we get there. You see, as far as the gameplay and plot of the original Spyro games go, there is one more game that I only recently found out about, and I want to play it while the Insomniac games are still fresh in my mind. Thank you very much for watching. Next time on Learning to Love PlayStation, we look at Spyro, Enter the Dragonfly.
Wow! Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.